So this is the, we're going to open the meeting of the Personnel Board. We have 3 board members available, Tracy, Dennis, myself. Mike Johns is joining us as a fearless leader here. And we have Council Jack Dolan.
Yep.
I got it.
You had it.
So our, can we do the agenda, the minutes? Really can't, we don't have, has anyone read the minutes for the last meeting dated March 30th?
Were they even distributed, Gary?
Not recently, no.
We'll take that up at the next meeting.
Well, we'll have to have another meeting for that. Okay, so,
They are available on the website if we want to review, and then we can accept those the next meeting. Apologies for that. This is Katie Lang.
yeah, we'll do it on the next meeting. We'll be prepared for that. So now I
Okay,
think
thanks, Gary.
we want to review the Personnel and Policy Guide. Mike, would you give us the history that you just gave me?
Sure. So, thank you, members of the Personnel Board, for meeting tonight, and Attorney Jack Dolan for being here as our fearless HR counsel and helping us to make sure that we've put this together in a correct fashion. So much of what you've reviewed over the last several weeks in the Foxborough Personnel and Policy Guide are a compilation of documents already written and approved by the town. But what we've done now is we've consolidated them into one document. This Personnel Board has been involved in recommending many policies and edits to policies before they went to the selectmen for review, and then the town manager has signed them with their authority. And so we put that together. Our policies are actually fantastic. We're in great shape. Many of them are up for review, and that's one of the things I think we should do this year. But this brings them together in one solid document. This specifically right now is tailored towards our non-union, non-personal contract employees. There are 15 employees in that group. But this guide also applies to all the rest of our town employees, the 160 some odd other employees, with the caveat that their collective bargaining agreements or their personal contracts for the four people that have those take those trump this. So if there's something more stringent or more specific language in one of the union contracts or in police, fire, town manager, or finance director's contracts, then that will trump this personnel guide. But this is meant to be a one-stop guide for people to be able to reference all our employees as well as this personnel board and the selectmen. And it's a book that once it's approved, we can give this to each employee as we onboard them. Currently, we have them review and sign all of our policies, which are solid. I mean, but they're not all together. That's what this is. This also includes the pay chart, and that's where we are with this. So it's this guide has been out to the board, I think, for 2 weeks, and then we did send a minor revision within the last day or two. I haven't received any questions or concerns on this, but would be happy to entertain any questions or concerns that board members may have at this time.
I have a couple, Gary, if that's okay.
Yes, please, go ahead, Tracy.
Thank you. I searched on the word and I couldn't find it, but it could be me missing it. Is there anything about query and background checks in here? Mike?
No.
You know what? If it's not, then I will make sure that gets in there, because that is part of our onboarding process.
Okay.
So I'll make sure that.
But I searched on the word Corey and I didn't find it. So I didn't know, but I just didn't know if, it was me missing it. But I actually did read through this and I couldn't find it.
Yeah, I didn't see it either, Tracy.
Yeah. Thank you for that, because that's certainly an important part of onboarding every single employee. So
Okay.
I've made a note of that. Thank you.
Then my next question is key employment dates. If somebody leaves and then comes back, which date is used as their anniversary date?
It's a good question.
That is a good question.
Because it says the date of hire is the date an employee is initially hired by the town in any capacity. And then anniversary date means the date which is no less than 1 full year after the date of initial appointment to the currently held position. It doesn't seem like we address what happens if somebody is here, leaves, and comes back.
So I think that language, help me out here, Jack, if I'm wrong, but I think that language implies that currently held position, if they left and then came back, then they're a rehire. And
But that's only the anniversary date, Mike. The date of hire states the date and hire is initially hired by the town in any capacity. So does that mean, excuse me, if I get hired and then I leave and I come back, I just think we want to provide some clarification because the anniversary date is the one that uses the currently held position. But I think we've got to be clear on the date of hire.
yeah, good point. We need some specificity in the language there. Okay.
Okay. Wordsmithing.
Yeah, good question.
If I could suggest a possible amendment that might address that, if you simply delete the word initially and say the date an employee is hired by the town in their current position, or you could add continuous service, which is defined two above this. You could say assuming continuous service with the town, it's the date the employee was initially hired. That would work as well. That would imply then that somebody who breaks that continuous service is a rehire and there'd be a new date of hire.
It's simple enough to do.
Yeah, and
That's a good idea.
I like that language, and I would recommend that, because, again, we're going to treat that person, they're still going to have a probationary period when they come on of
all
6
over
months.
again, right?
Yeah, everything's new at that point, so I like that language change.
You like that, Tracy?
I do.
Okay.
Good question,
Another
thank you.
question I had.
Jack.
Oh,
Sorry, Tracy. Jack, just to, could you just repeat the languages so I can try to get that all done, and then I can send an email to you in the morning just to confirm. I just want to make sure that I've got it done right.
Certainly, no problem. I'll go with my second suggestion, which is using the continuous service definition. I would say date of hire, assuming continuous service with the town, the date an employee is initially hired by the town in any capacity, period. So we're retaining the word initially because we're modifying it by the insertion of continuous service.
Okay, so assuming continuous service.
The date an employee is initially hired by the town in any capacity. So the remainder of that present language would stay. It would only be adding assuming continuous service at the beginning of that sentence and a comma.
Okay, great.
Anything else,
Just
Tracy?
one more. Yep, just two more things. In complaints of sexual harassment, it has both your and Bill's name in here. This is going to live on, hopefully, in perpetuity. Is it, instead of saying Assistant Town Manager Mike Johns, Town Manager William Keegan, is it better to just say, if you'd like to file a complaint, you may do so by contacting the town manager, or I have my thing on it. If you prefer, you may file a complaint with the assistant town manager. Both can be reached at, and then you could put the number of the office, but you guys are not going to be in your offices forever. And the minute you're out of it or in a new role, this is out of date.
Right. So I've seen that sort of question addressed in two ways. I've seen in such as FMLA policies, I've seen it recommended that the person in the position who it should be reported to by name, so that there's no question of who they're going to. But I would solicit Jack's advice on that. To me, the efficient way to do it would be exactly what you're suggesting, Tracy, by just naming the position. But I have seen before where the recommendation of a specific person. Do you have a recommendation on that, Jack?
But then you have to revise it all the time.
Sure. No, Tracy's right, obviously, that anytime there's a change in the office holder of those offices, that would necessitate not only changing this, but thinking to change it, which is the bigger problem sometimes.
Right.
So I think it makes sense to just name the office.
Okay.
The one reason why sometimes I have seen some communities prefer to name names in this particular policy is just to personalize it a little bit. You're dealing with a very difficult topic, and putting a name there sometimes softens it a little. But in Foxborough, everybody's going to know who holds those offices at any given time.
Yeah, if we're going to personalize it and I guess make it our own, I think we should put Gary's name in.
Good luck with that.
Okay, so we will do that. Thank you for that, Jack and Tracy.
Okay, I think I had two more. I lied. In the standards of conduct civility policy, which I know Gary, we spent a lot of time on with Mary Beth. It says the town of Foxborough municipal government desires to set a standard of the highest professionalism, blah, 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 blah. Additionally, as the controlling governmental body of the town of Foxborough, the Board of Selectmen shall model this behavior for the town. Shouldn't all boards, including the Board of Selectmen, model this behavior for the town? I know it's a nuance, but I would expect all boards to model the behavior, not just the Board of Selectmen.
I agree with you. And I think we'd want to go back and change the language in that policy and then insert it in here. Thoughts, Jack?
I appreciate the suggestion, and I understand why it's made, and it does make some sense. An alternative argument would be, because the board is the board that initially adopted this particular policy, they were setting the bar for themselves, and then the policy itself then mandates that all boards adopt a similar posture of civility and all the other standards here. So it's not necessary, but if you wanted to sort of underline or underscore the importance of all boards doing that, you could do that. I think it was just intended for the board to say, we're putting our own behavior where our words are.
Right.
So you can go either way on that. Whether you put it or not, it's still intended to apply to all boards by the language in the policy.
Okay, that makes sense to me. And this, if this policy guidebook is recommended this evening, it will go to selectmen, and then the selectmen can, we discuss it here, and certainly the selectmen can broadcast. That is the intent. They're setting the example for the town, and that all other boards, committees, and commissions would be held to that same standard.
They are the premier board in town. Yes, the governing board. Yes.
Right.
No, I agree.
Excuse me, this board is the premier board in town.
But the other one's the chief executive board.
Right, I guess. One other, I am at my end. Didn't we, when we discussed this, Gary, ad nauseum, we talked about, the civility policy being something that we expect of our residents as well as our board members?
Yes, yep. And I believe it's posted in town hall that way as well.
Yeah, okay, so that I remembered right. I don't see it anywhere in here, but again, it could be me having done, because we talk about no employee, member of a board, commission, or committee, or person representing the town shall at any time for any reason raise his or her voice, demean, or purposely embarrass. Now, I know this, and maybe we can't put it in here because this is a policy for
For employees. Right.
For employees, but actually, you know what? It's actually in here. I totally missed it. It's the bottom of 16. Is expected that any person doing business in town buildings or at a town event shall be similarly respectful to all others in attendance.
Okay.
Forget about it. It's addressed.
All right. Anything
That's
else?
all I had. Nope.
Okay. Dennis, do you have anything?
No, I mean, I've seen, as you know, Mike, I've seen many of these over the years, running a couple of different organizations, one a public organization. So I'm familiar with the content. None of it is unusual in my experience. It reflects content that suggests that there's a highly unionized environment. And a lot of the policies reflect probably similar language that are in the various union contracts, which is what I was looking for. So no surprises, very well done, very well put together, flows really well, and, something I think that really is a really good document overall.
Thank you. So I think, Mike, what you're looking for is a vote from the board to endorse this so that you can present it to the selectmen for their
That's correct.
sign off.
That's correct, yeah, a vote for a recommendation. And Dennis, thank you for those kind words. And we'll say this was certainly a team effort led by our town manager, Bill, and Katie and I in our office also had our hands heavily in this, and under the advice and guidance of our town council, Jack Dolan.
Don't forget
So
Mary
thank
Beth.
you. Actually,
She
Mary
drove us crazy for 2 years, didn't she, Jack?
Well, actually, no, that's true, because she was the one that initially drove the individual policies that are now being integrated into this. So thank you.
I'll make a motion
Go ahead.
Second.
Okay, I'm not done yet. I'll make a motion to endorse, have the personnel board endorse this policy with the amended changes we discussed tonight to the Board of Selectmen.
Do I have a second? Dennis, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? All three of
Have to do
us?
a roll call.
Obviously. Okay,
Okay,
you have what you need.
very good.
Hey,
thank
Gary,
you.
you need to do a roll call.
Okay, roll call. Tracy?
Yes?
Yay, okay. Dennis?
Yes.
Okay, all in
Gary?
favor? I'm in favor. Approved.
Okay, great, thank you. And so we'll go ahead and bring this and present it to the selectmen, and similarly, we'll send it to them with some time to review, and then bring it up at one of the next couple of board meetings with your recommendation. So thank you for that.
So the next item is to discuss the COVID-19 policies. Mr. John?
So as you know, on Monday, the governor, filed legislation, so he filed legislation extending, some of our, well, let me back up a little bit. When he first made the announcement that we were going to be able to loosen some of the restrictions, the masks, the gathering sizes, full open restaurants, and so forth. One of the things included in that was that the Massachusetts state of emergency would be rescinded or lifted on June 15th. And we, back on March 17th, a year ago, we also adopted a Foxborough state of emergency. And with that state of emergency, then this board, as well as the selectmen, also adopted some policies specific to COVID-19. And mostly they related to flexible leave and sick use for employees, particularly sick use for folks who had either childcare or school issues and needed time to take care of children, or folks who were quarantined or exposed but not necessarily sick. And we set a sunset on those policies. Well, that was one of the policies. One of the other major ones was remote work policy. And so we don't have a remote work policy here in town, but we adopted one that was hinged on the pandemic. And we specifically and purposely sunsetted those when the Foxborough state of emergency is lifted. And so the Board of Selectmen voted last night to rescind the Foxborough state of emergency the same date that the state does, which is June 15th. So when that happens, then it'll take away that flexible use of sick leave, which we've seen dramatically reduce as the health of the state and the town has improved, so that'll be that'll go away. So are there any questions for me regarding those policies that, that you all worked with me on a little over a year ago and the town adopted? So, we will sunset those on June 15th, as I mentioned.
And the state is pushing legislation, or trying to get legislation to allow outdoor dining to continue, I believe.
That's correct. So the governor filed legislation yesterday, to continue outdoor dining, actually to continue a lot of things that we've found very helpful during the pandemic, and some of them that we here in Foxborough, and I'm sure other communities, feel will be helpful moving forward. And that is some of the open meeting law temporary changes. So he's filed legislation, and that would carry much of that through September 1st. So we were preparing yesterday to actually adopt the CMR remote policy that the state allows towns to use. We had that prepared. Katie had prepared a policy when we found out that the governor had filed that legislation extending it. And so I recommended that the board not vote on that remote policy because we have more time, and also because I anticipate that the governor is going to have language in there that may be more current and more applicable for remote work remote meetings as necessary. We'll see if either that legislation doesn't pass, or the language isn't what we need, then we'll take another look at it. But we really need to see that legislation. But we do have time. We believe if that legislation passes, then we'll have time. If that legislation does not pass, then we will take it up at probably the next Board of Selectmen meeting, because that'll give us time to make that vote, adopt a remote policy prior to June 15th. Should anyone have the need, to be on work, whatever, and still want to participate in these meetings. And that policy has to be adopted by the Board of Selectmen before any other boards, committees, or commissions can operate under that. That being said, come Tuesday, this room and other meeting spaces are going to be open to full capacity. So we don't see any issue why board, committee, and commission members can't all meet, why we can't have the public come to our meetings and go back to what we knew 15 or 16 months ago.
Right.
But we'll see how that goes in the next few weeks. Any questions, Gary, or anyone?
I'm good. Tracy, Dennis, any questions?
No. I mean, my background is public health, as Mike knows. And one of the things that is still a little unclear going forward is whether it's particularly for an indoor meeting, but even for an outdoor meeting, is what is the mask policy for unvaccinated individuals?
Sure.
That needs to be clarified.
So I can tell you what I know at this point. And so for fully vaccinated individuals, asymptomatic, there's no mask required starting the 29th. For us in public buildings, that'll basically be Tuesday because of the holiday Monday. The sign we're going to be putting on the door here at Town Hall when we leave here, when we close the building at 12:30, is going to be, if you're fully vaccinated, we look forward to seeing your smile. If not, we can wait a little longer. And really what that's saying in a very friendly manner is exactly what you're getting towards, Gary. If you are not vaccinated, either by choice or by or because you've got a health condition or the doctor is recommending against you getting the vaccination, then we need you to still wear masks. That being said, masks are required. That being said, we won't be checking IDs. We're operating on an honor system the same way that the national and state government levels are are operating. So we expect people who are coming in who are not vaccinated to wear a mask. Also, we are not going to be requiring any employees who are vaccinated to wear masks. However, there may be folks, as we're changing from one world to another, who are still a little bit uncomfortable getting out for the first time, that sort of thing. So we're going to see people with masks for a while until that maybe tapers off. And one other, I guess, related thing is, I don't have the numbers on this, but in talking with our Director of Public Health late last week, we talked about, what was the influenza season like last year? And it was negligible. And, I think that some of the things that doctors and the public health community have been telling us probably for a century are, wash your hands, wash doorknobs, cover your mouth and nose when you sneeze or cough. Very simple things that have become regular habit over this past year. I think those are lessons that we're going to carry forward, whether we ever see COVID or a pandemic or anything like that. And I think I truly believe that's going to help us, our workforce and our residents, that we're not spreading the common cold or influenza or other sorts of illnesses. I hope that helps to answer your question, Dennis.
Yeah, it does, yes.
Is there anything else you'd like to add?
I think
We're
that
ready to adjourn.
I think that we want to have another meeting, probably, I know, to address a few other things, specifically to review some of the policies that are at this point, several years old. And just I'm going to go through, take a look at them, edit them, get them out to you. And maybe in the next month or two, we could schedule another meeting and get that documentation. Katie will get that out to you. And then also take up, reorganization of the board. There was some discussion of doing that this evening, but, I didn't get it on the agenda. So that's all I have.
Okay. Anything to add, Dennis? Tracy?
No, I just want to say that I think, Mike, you did a fabulous job working with Bill to manage, the emergency policies that were put in place and just everything related to COVID and the town employees. And I just want to commend you on a job well done.
Well said, yes.
Thank you, Tracy. I appreciate that. And I will tell you, it has been a team effort. You have seen the town come together, the municipal leadership, all of our, municipal workforce, town and school side, and the residents. People have just been fantastic. And I will say one of the very smart decisions that I believe we made was we opened government back up as soon as possible. We never shut down, but we did close buildings to the public, and we reopened them right after the 4th of July last year. And we're reaping the benefits of that now, because I know it's very tough in a lot of organizations to get workforces back and get back to full service. So we've been very fortunate that way. So thank you for that, Tracy.
I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second,
Tracy's yes.
Dennis?
yes.
Okay, Gary, yes. We are adjourned. Thank you.